too many business owners and managers and division leaders, they basically go by how much they get yelled at. And if the client isn't yelling at them or if their boss isn't yelling at them, things are going fine.
What are like one or two tips that you would give somebody who's thinking about hiring a VA for the long term or a remote worker for the long term?
Sure. Best piece of advice I can give you is what I do every time I'm thinking about adding somebody to the team. I take a little yellow legal pad and I say, every time I think of something that I wish I had somebody else doing, I'll just write it down. And I'll do that for a week or two. I'll go through my day and I'll say, I wish somebody else could help me with scheduling. I wish I didn't have to type these contracts. I wish I didn't have to pull this data myself. And I'll just make a list. And after a week or two, you can look at it and say, okay, this 80% makes a pretty good job description of admin assistant. Let's start looking at that. Let's sit on it for another week and think, well, if I had an admin assistant, what else could they do? Because too many people, like I said earlier, they start with, I need help rather than what are they going to be doing?
Right.
But if you start building a job description, and particularly, we get a lot of people that it's like, I want 20% to be social media, and I want 25% to be answering phones, and then 40% is going to be controller. And it's like, that doesn't work, because either they're not going to be a good controller, or if they're a controller, answering phones is beneath them. You need to make that into two positions.
Gotcha.
So making that list will help, because you can't expect to solve all your problems with one person. You have to be honest about, if they're great at customer service, that's different than somebody who's really detail oriented on accounting. And you have to be able to break it down into a logical job description. That's why we have probably 50 sample job descriptions on our website that people can look at and say, oh, I think I want this, and then just add a few tweaks to it. It helps people see what a logical grouping of job duties are.
I really like that tip. So basically, as you're going through your day, we're writing down things we don't really want to do or we want to outsource. As we start getting a bunch of different tasks that are in the same category, we can kind of start to put them together and say, okay, this is a good job description for somebody. That gives clarity for you. That gives clarity for them. That helps you to set them up for success in a way.
Yeah. And then once you have those, start to ask yourself, what will define if they're doing a good job or not? How will this employee know? And how will I know if they're doing a good job? Too many business owners and managers and division leaders, they basically go by how much they get yelled at. And if the client isn't yelling at them or if their boss isn't yelling at them, things are going fine. But it can't be like that. You have to decide, if they're going to answer phones, okay, I want a missed call percent below 5%. I want a customer satisfaction rating of 98%. If it's AP, I want this many transactions done, coded in a given day with a 1% error rate. You have to come up with, how do they know that they're doing a good job? Because especially remote, there's all this uncertainty. And if you're like me and you don't communicate particularly well as it relates to feedback and things, people can be very uncertain. So having objective data on, this is how they know they're doing a good job, it'll help both you and them decide if stuff is getting done. Because you're not hiring people for 8 hours of their time. You're paying them for what they do with that time.
Right.
So decide, this is what I need. I need this many phone calls. I need this many transactions. I need this much research done in this amount of time.